السلام عليكم، أهلا بكم أعزائي الطلبة في New System اللي هو Physiology of Blood or Hematology. انتهينا من المصل Physiology والآن إلى First Lecture of Hematology, Red Blood Cells, Anemia and Polycythemia. Red blood cells or erythrocytes have multifunctions include transport of hemoglobin. الهيموغلوبين هو اللي ينتقل داخل ال red blood cells carry oxygen from lung to tissues. Then transport of carbon dioxide as water products from the tissues to the lung with assistance of carbonic anhydrase, an enzyme present in the red blood cell. When carbon dioxide released from the tissues as waste product attached with the H2O اللي هو أصلا موجود داخل البلاد, when the presence of carbonic anhydrase inside the cell, inside the red blood cells, the reaction يكون داخل RBC, convert to hydrogen bicarbonate, يتحول إلى hydrogen bicarbonate أسبيس اللي هي easily convert to acid اللي هو carbonic acid. With the presence of hydrogen reach to the lung for the blood. In the lung هيصير عندي return to the first composition of carbon dioxide with H2O. Then release carbon dioxide as gas to the outside of the body. Third function, act as hemoglobin in the cell is an excellent acid-base buffer, so that red blood cell, by the way, act as acid-base buffering power for whole blood. Shape and size of RBC. RBC is a biconcave disc that makes it able to squeeze through the narrow or tiny capillaries. It's about 7.8 micrometer in diameter, الدايمتر مالتها 2.5 micro at the border اللي تكون thicker area of RBC, and only 1 micro or less in the center اللي تكون the thinner area of red blood cell. Concentration of RBC in male 5.200,000 plus minus 300,000 cell for each milliliter, cubic milliliter of blood, while in women 4.700,000 plus minus 300,000. هذا هو الرينج هذا هو المين. الرينج ممكن increase or decrease 300,000 for each. Persons at high altitude have a greater numbers of RBCs. هيكون more than these normal value of red blood cells. Okay, that's because decrease of level of oxygen, which then required more and more of RBCs for transport more oxygen. Quantity of hemoglobin in cells. Red blood cells have ability to concentrate HB up to 34 gram per 100 ml of the cells. هي هاي يمثل أقصى إمكانيتها يكون concentration of HB هي 34. But normally for male there is 15 gram of HB, and for female or women only 14 gram per HB per 100 of milliliters of the cells. But he is able to reach to this number 34 gram. And each gram of pure HB combined with 1.34 mol of oxygen, لا تحسبها, راح يكون ability of HB for male to carry oxygen is 20 mol of oxygen for each mol of the blood, and for female carry 19 mol of oxygen for each 100 mol of blood. Production of RBC. What's the areas of the body that produce RBC? In early weeks of embryonic life or primitive nucleated red blood cell راح تكون حاوية على nucleus produced in the yolk sac. In the middle trimester of gestation راح ينتقل production to the liver mainly with assistance of spleen and lymph nodes in a later extent. And during last month of gestation or after birth, the mainly organ produce or area or size produce RBC هو البون marrow. Genesis of red blood cell. Pluripotential hematopoietic stem cells هي main cell for production all type of the blood cells. In bone marrow, red blood cell begin as pluripotential hematopoietic stem cell. تكون منشأها ما تكون RBC راح تكون كخلية الأساس أو الخلية الأم اللي هي الستيم سيلز اللي اسمها pluripotential hematopoietic stem cell. Cell developed from the stem cell divided into two types. أصلاً إحنا منشأ هي تعتبر أو source for all cell types. فراح يتفرع منها two type of the cells. Portion remain like the original stem cell, stay in the bone marrow to maintain supply of cells, and portion develop into the combined stem cells, which produce two type subdivision اللي هو colony-forming unit of erythrocyte والcolony-forming unit of the organocyte and monocyte. بمعنى إن أنا السيلة أعتقد أكو فيجر يوضحها إلي. هاي هيماتوبيك ستيم سيل تكون موجودة بالبون مارو بس عندي development راح يتفرع عنها two type of the cells. cell يبقى نفس ال structure of the stem cells under request for each needing for new production new cells راح يصير بها development for produce new and new cell blood cell. وتايب آخر يتفرع إلى two types اللي هي ال colonic forming for red blood cells و white blood cells. يعني حيكون عندنا two types for cells تتفرع إلى white blood cells و cells تتفرع إلى RBC red blood cells. growth inducers and differentiation inducers. طبعا هذا development راح يكون تحت تأثير factors or inducers the growth و differentiation. growth inducers هو عبارة عن proteins are controlled growth and reproduction of the different stem cells. There are four types like interleukin 3 which promote growth and reproduction. أنا هو بأكثر من type interleukin 1, 4, 6 and 3. لكن ال 3 هو يكون more important promote the growth and reproduction of all type chromatic cells, stem cells, whereas other induce growth only specific type. فهو يكون more commonly or general function يمتلك for growth of the cells. Differentiation inducers اللي هو عبارة أيضا عن protein are control of differentiation of the chromatic stem cells. راح يكون عندي الجروث هي inducers تسيطر على production of the cell بينما differentiation of the stem cells يكون under effect of differentiation inducer. Note, growth inducer and differentiation inducers are controlled by factors تشمل hypoxia والinfection. hypoxia تسيطر على إنتاج red blood cells, control production of red blood cells and differentiation. والinfection control the production and differentiation of white blood cells. لما تكون أكو عندي hypoxia and there is needing for production more and more red blood cells فراح يبدأ عندي genesis from stem cells to the colony forming of the erythrocyte forming units of erythrocyte to produce more and more red blood cells. When there is infection, there is راح يستدعي أو راح تكون عندي requirement for production white blood cells، واللي يكون أيضا من الstem cells إلى colony forming of granulocyte monocyte cell يتحول إلى chromatin cell، ومنه يصير عندي differentiation وصولا إلى types of white blood cells بأنواعها المتعددة. حاليا أنا جاي أحكي عن red blood cells، فراح أركز على stage of differentiation of RBC. قلنا beginning the life beginning as pluripotential hematopoietic stem cell، واللي إذا تتذكرون قلنا عندها نوعين من السيلز، نوع يبقى as the same structure اللي هي تبقى نقول for storing تعتبر مخزن للإنتاج more and more cells when there is needing، ونوع آخر يصير به differentiation or development to CFU of erythrocyte، وهذا راح يصير به development for another type of the cell اللي هي pro-erythroblast، منها يتحول إلى البيزوفيل erythroblast، يكون حاوي على pigment، بما أنه بيزوفيل فأكو bluish color، أكو basic dyes with little formation of HB. بهالمرحلة راح يبدي production of HB with succeeding generation leading to formation of reticulocyte اللي حاوية تكون على ال HB، حاوية على condensed nucleus، راح تبدي nucleus تصير فيها condensation، هي آخر مرحلة تكون حاوية على nucleus. عن كل المراحل الأولى تكون حاوية على nucleus، ما بعد الريتيكولوسايت راح تختفي nucleus. فهي هاي الكوندنسينج هي عملية الإضمحلال، بداية تكوين lysis of nucleus. With reabsorbed erythrocyte reticulum and small amounts of basophilic materials consisting of remnant of cytoplasmic organelles such as any type of the other cells حاوي على organelles، لكن بعدين راح يصير بها development، أقصد هنا الred blood cell. فهذا development من وصولا إلى الماتشور cell راح يصير disappearing or lysis of most of organelles and the cytoplasm. السبيس راح يكون filled with as possible large amount of HB. زين، فراح يتحول إلى specific cell. أو احنا قلنا أنا قلت بالبراكتيكال باللاب السابق قلت هي أحيانا is called as corpuscle not cells because appearance of absence of nucleus and the most organelles presence in other type of the cells that mostly filled with HB hemoglobin. And then reticulocyte راح يصير بها dialysis from bone marrow to the blood vessel as mature red blood cell. هذا هو ال stage of differentiation of red blood cell. هذا الفيجرز يوضح development and differentiation of stem cells leading to the colonies of all type of the cells سواء كان erythrocyte or leukocyte. تابعوا انتم شباب، هو واضح، هو يعني ما يحتاج شرح. Regulation of red blood cell production and role of erythropoietin. RBC production controlled by hypoxia. واضح، إذا صار عندي hypoxia راح يصير عندي requirement for production of RBC. When there is no hypoxia the production راح يكون quiet or stable، ما يحتاج production، راح نكتفي. طبعا ما يتوقف تماما، لكن بالnormal range ما يحتاج over production of RBC. أكيد راح يكون عندي every day there is dying RBC or lysis RBC، وهذا راح يستدعي production new RBC from bone marrow، لكن ضمن range معين، ضمن النورمال range. لكن في حالة الهايبوكسيا راح يكون عندي over production requirement for over production of red blood cell. Hypoxia caused by maybe anemia or high altitude or disease of lung or the heart, cardiac disease. For these causes leading to appearance or production of hypoxia, and this leading to production of new cells. Erythropoietin stimulates production of RBC, and its formation increases a response to hypoxia, as clear. Role of kidneys in formation of erythropoietin. احنا قلنا erythropoietin هو هرمون production هرمون of RBC، هو هرمون الإنتاج لكريات الدم الحمراء. واضح؟ 90% of erythropoietin secret were in renal tubular epithelial cells in the kidney, a response to norepinephrine and epinephrine, and several of the prostaglandins during hypoxia. بس عندي hypoxia راح يصير عندي more secretion of epinephrine and norepinephrine as stress hormones in addition to prostaglandins. All these hormones leading to production of or stimulation of production of erythropoietin from renal tubules. Is the kidney the only organ secret erythropoietin? No. 10%, احنا قلنا 90 in the kidney secretion of erythropoietin, and the remaining 10% of erythropoietin secret from the liver, from hepatic cells. So any defect or removed or disease in the kidney will cause very anemic, because the 10% of the liver secretion of erythropoietin is sufficient only for 1/3 to 1/2 of RBC formation needed for the body. So very important, there is at least one healthy kidney in the person for avoiding the anemic state. Effect of erythropoietin and the erythrogenesis. At low oxygen, erythropoietin begin to be formed within minutes to hours. It's very important to faster production of erythropoietin and reach the maximum production within 24 hours. واضح؟ شوفوا السرعة إنه خلال 1 days when there is hypoxia or low of oxygen, erythropoietin secretion reach to the maximum level. Erythropoietin stimulate production of pro-erythroblast from stem cells وتكمل مسيرتها وصولا إلى mature cells. New RBC appear within 5 days. إذن عملية الجينيسيس تحتاج about 5 days to be mature cells. Erythropoietin production continues till the oxygen become the normal value. هيبقى عندنا stimulation عندنا sensing of the kidney تتحسس the low level of oxygen. When there is a return of oxygen to the normal level هيصير عندنا عملية inhibition for production of erythropoietin. هاي أحد عمليات homeostasis. In the absence of erythropoietin, a few RBC are formed by bone marrow. Production ما يتوقف لكن يزداد بوجود erythropoietin from bone marrow. Maturation failure caused by poor absorption of vitamin B12 from GIT اللي نسميه pernicious anemia. Atrophic gastric mucosa that fail to produce normal gastric secretion. ما يصير عندي ضمور بالgastric mucosa هذا راح يسبب لي failure في إنتاج gastric secretions. The parietal cells of the gastric gland secrete glycoprotein called intrinsic factor, very important factor. Why? Because it's combined with vitamin B12 in the food and make vitamin B12 available for absorption by the gut. واضح? That's why attaching or binding of intrinsic factor and vitamin B12 very important for production of RBC. طبعا وين حصلا من الفود يكون عن طريق الابزوربشن. عملية الابزوربشن ما تتم إلا بوجود intrinsic factor اللي هو من يجيني من parietal cells. واضح؟ لا عندي أي defect بالmucosa of gut راح يسبب لي بالنتيجة deficiency of vitamin B12 وبالنتيجة أنيميا نوع البرنيشيوس أنيميا decrease of production of RBC. الميكانيزم تكون يرتبط الانترنسك فاكتور tightly with vitamin B12 وهذا الباوندينج state protect the vitamin B12 from digestion by GIT secretion. زين راح يسوي protection wall أو carrier كحامل وقائي أو دفاعي against GIT secretion. Still in the bound state خلال عملية الباوندينج intrinsic factor يرتبط with special receptors بالbrush border of intestine in the membrane. وين راح تكون هاي العملية؟ عملية بالإليوم ارتباطا بهاي الريسبتورز موجودة بالإليوم. واضح؟ بعدين من يوصل لهالمرحلة بعد ما يرتبط راح فيتامين B12 transported to the blood يحرره للبلاد هو بس مجرد كارير ينقله من الفود يحميه من الدايجستيف secretions يوصله للبرش بوردر يوصله للسبيشال ريسبتورز in the ileum وهناك راح يسوي له releasing to the blood وينتقل فيتامين B12 to the bone marrow. So lack of intrinsic factor leading to formation of deficiency of vitamin B12. فيتامين B12 stored in the liver بعد ما يتحرر راح يروح للليفر and released slowly as needed by bone marrow. كل ما احتاج البون marrow راح ياخذه من الليفر. Daily requirement of vitamin B12 هي 1 to 3 microgram and normal storage of the liver هو 1000 times as this amount. يعني أن نحتاج الموجود المخزون هو 1000 ضعف الحاجة اليومية. So 3 to 4 years of defective B12 usually required cause of maturation failure. فهذا نادرا ما يحدث عندي البرنيشيوس أنيميا بسبب presence of storage. راح يستنزف المخزون لو استمر عملية deficiency أو defect for 3 to 4 years حتى يبين تأثير نقصان فيتامين B12. Failure of maturation caused by deficiency of folic acid. Other factors very important for production of RBC. Folic acid represent other types of folic or names of folic acid were tyrol glutamic acid. Tyrol glutamic acid presents in the green vegetables and some fruits and meats, especially liver, and easy destroyed during cooking. So it's important to eat vegetables and fruit in a fresh state for providing of folic acid. Disease caused abnormal absorption of GIT like sprout فهذا مرض جدي يسبب أو تحسس خاص بالGIT ممكن يسبب لي deficiency of folic acid وذات lead to maturation failure of RBC. Very important for maturation of RBC. إلى هنا أعزائي الطلبة ينتهي part 1 of lecture 1.